Hello, my beautiful IU. Whether you're joining live or you're watching the recording, it's great to have you step into the circle. And if you have been following this series of podcasts, or even if you haven't, we're talking about different ways that healthy giving, healthy service, healthy in the way of taking care of yourself as you take care of others, and how that manifests and how that shows up in your life. And today, in particular, we're talking about a big one for a lot of people, which is what I and others call the martyr trap. And that's the idea that we're talking about you being the designated shock absorber in your life. If you're an awakening leader or a parent, or leading a team, you know what I'm talking about. But let me know in the comments, are you the one that everybody goes to when things are falling apart? Type yes if you are the shock absorber and you know what I'm talking about. You're the one that is absorbing the shock from the stress of your team, your family. You blur your own boundaries to keep projects moving, or maybe to mollify others so that they don't have to feel suffering, or they don't have to be unhappy or uncomfortable. You constantly act as the buffer for chaos. Some call it dedication. We call it taking one for the team. In reality, it's the martyr trap. It's a fast track to nothing less than a complete system crash, right? We've been using this metaphor of debugging your spiritual operating system and not accumulating technical debt. You keep accumulating it until it becomes such a problem that something has to change. And in my experience, and not only in my own life, but in working with others, Spirit allows you to learn that lesson as many times as you need to, but it gets it increasingly more serious, the ramifications of it each time, until it starts to manifest itself as health issues, as serious relationship issues like breaking up, estrangement, things like that. So it's really important that we start to learn the signs and we start to learn to listen. You can't be the bottomless battery for everyone else, right? Especially when you're running your own internal operating system and your tank is empty. That's the time when things can get real serious real fast. And if you've experienced that, you know what I'm talking about. For me personally, it was years and years of ignoring my health in favor of, well, really my will, my ambition of what I thought it would take for me to be happy and healthy and satisfied. Having a good job, having, the relationship, the things, the physical things, money, whatever it is, achievement, power, all those things, right? I, like a lot of people, thought if I have those things, then everything will be good. Everything will be good, right? But what we find out is when we get those things, sometimes we get the challenges in equal measure with the blessings. That's the way it happened for me. Sometimes you get the blessings first and you build yourself up to this point. You go, now I've got it. I've achieved what I thought I was going to achieve and everything's going to be good. And then it falls apart, right? It's so common that I think to myself, there's got to be a pattern here. So many people go through this pattern. And there are variations. We're all different, right? But it's generally the same thing. What would your leadership or your life look like if instead of leading from a place of tank is empty, cup is empty, whatever metaphor you like, that you led from a place of overflow instead of constantly giving from depletion? What would change for you? What would change for you if you felt like as soon as I got up in the morning, I'm full of energy, I feel like I'm aligned with my purpose, and I have the discernment to know when it's healthy to give and how to give, and when it's not, and I feel like I can come from that place. And sometimes that means putting yourself first. Other times, as the situation dictates and your heart dictates, you put other people first. But even when you do that, if you're coming from a place where your heart is full and you're coming from overflow, you can more easily have discernment in those situations where when you're giving service, you're doing it in a way that's in the best and highest good, not only for the person you're serving, but for yourself, right? This is the time that the disruption is needed. The status quo doesn't work, right? The pattern of shadow that feeds on itself and gets more and more serious the more you ignore it can be disrupted if you see it. Nobody's going to stop you from getting healthy. You hear me? Nobody's going to stop you. You just have to decide that I'm worth it. I'm enough. I'm worthy. And guess what? All the people that depend on me today are going to still depend on me, but I get to set the terms. I get to decide what that looks like for me. Right? I'm calling this debugging the soul. I know I'm a techie, but that's really what you're doing, right? Your soul is kind of like a spiritual or an energetic operating system. And it's full of bugs, and it doesn't always run right. Sometimes you get an update and it fails. Or sometimes it's just not running fast enough or in the right way. So this is what I mean by debugging the soul. So on Saturday, just 2 days from now, we're starting a 16-week container called the Vital Harmony Council to bring together people that want to debug their soul. And what I've found, and I think this will resonate with many of you, is that this only happens in community. This isn't something that you can just be alone in a dark room and sit by yourself and decide, I'm going to debug my soul and I'm going to get better. Now, the decision to get better can happen in a dark room while you're by yourself, but the healing part, we really need other people to mirror back to us so that we can see those bugs in our operating system, and them for us and us for them. Same thing. So why the Vital Harmony Council? So I came up with this idea of vital harmony a long time ago. It kind of came to me when I started learning about the concept of Ayni, A-Y-N-I, which is a Quechua word. Quechua is spoken in about 5 countries in South America. I think there's about 2-3 million people that speak it. It's an indigenous language. And what Ayni means, it's kind of a philosophy of life, and it roughly translates to harmony and reciprocity. That's easy to say. What does that really mean? Well, when you live it, what it means is that you're in harmony and in reciprocity with all things, including yourself, and especially yourself, right? Another way that it's kind of oversimply translated is for me today, for you tomorrow. And yeah, that's an aspect of it. It's fair to say that, but it doesn't really capture the whole idea, right? The whole idea is that with the earth, with animals, with your local culture, with the world culture, with yourself, with spirit, you're in harmony. And the reciprocity part is the key that gets overlooked, because harmony is easy to conceptually, think about. What would it mean to be in harmony? That means I feel good all the time, right? Kind of, but the feeling good part, there's a mechanism to make that happen. The mechanism is reciprocity. So what does it mean? It means when you get something, you give something, and vice versa. So things stay in balance. There's an energetic exchange. And I think that this is so important, this mechanism of harmony called reciprocity, It's so important that I've come up with this term, sacred exchange. It's so important that it's sacred. So think about what that means in your day-to-day life. When you have unconscious expectations about something that someone should be giving you just because it's the right thing to do, or you give of yourself in a way that's less than pure. And what I mean by that is, let's say we've all been in this situation, right? Especially if you have kids, where you're like, the kid needs this. I'm just going to do it because it's easier and faster and it takes less energy for me and just get it done. If you've done that, say yes in the comments because I know you have. I have. But if you stop and think, is that really in the kid's highest interest? And it is in my highest interest. A lot of times the answer, if you're really honest, would be no. It's not. Because I'm not doing anything to heal myself or the kid. It's not reciprocity. And so it's not going to lead to harmony, right? And yes, sometimes it takes more effort. A lot of times it takes more effort because you have to approach it in a more mindful way. The giving, the exchanging part, right? So what we're trying to do in this container is to raise a couple of things really, but to raise the awareness of the practical aspects of that sacred exchange and to mirror for each other what that looks like. And that's the key aspect of the program, really. And this is what gets me really passionate and excited about it, because I haven't really done it like this before. A lot of this information is new, and I feel like it came from Spirit, and I'm offering it to you. It's not coming from Mark. But the idea that we heal better in community, I've embraced that. I embraced that a couple of years ago because I lived a life of isolation. And it's very natural from a human psychology perspective that when you're in pain, doesn't matter what kind of pain, but when you're in pain, you isolate, you lick your wounds, you go into the turtle goes into its shell, right? But what I've learned is that's exactly the opposite of what we need to be doing if we want to heal. As uncomfortable as that is, and yes, it is very uncomfortable a lot of times. We don't want to be in community. We don't want to talk to anybody, right? We just want to be left alone. Well, sometimes we need that. You can use your discernment to decide when you do, but a lot of times when we're wounded is exactly when we don't need that. We should be in community. And the kind of community is important. We know that, right? Because if you go and find community where all you're going to get back is validation about why you're wounded, and it's the story you're telling about why you're wounded, and you're getting married, oh yeah, that dude, he did you wrong, or man, your parents really sucked, or man, your kid is just off in the wild blue yonder and I don't know what he's thinking, but he's not doing the right thing. That kind of thing. All they're doing is mirroring back the chaos, right? So the kind of community is important. So what we're trying to do is have a container full of community that is accountable emotionally and spiritually, is practicing neutrality and non-judgment, and is committed to having you mirror them and them mirror you so that you can see more clearly the work that you want to do, need to do, and to kind of be the one that is holding the light in the darkness so that you can see into your own darkness more deeply and be there for you along with the healing practices that we're going to learn so that you can finally do the work. Whatever that looks like for you, right? It's a little different for everybody. But what I'm talking about are kind of these universal concepts that I know are effective. Building that container of trust. And then layered on top of that, which is amazing, is this idea that a lot of the people that need help are the ones that can't really pay for it financially, or they're already, their time is so consumed with their family or what they're dealing with, they couldn't even volunteer if they wanted to. This idea of a sacred exchange where you can donate, or that's the wrong word, strike that, where you can offer any combination of money or time, because your time is sacred. That's your most limited resource, right? So you can donate any combination of, I said the word again, offer any kind of combination of money or time to the container. And nobody knows what that combination is except you, unless you tell someone. In the container, we're all equal. So, setting the stage, removing the obstacles, right? For you to get involved in your own healing. And for you to take charge and make that decision that I'm going to be in Ayni, in harmony and reciprocity with myself, because in the context of the talk today about the Martyr Trap, that's the big one for most of us. We can much more easily think about how can I be in harmony in my family, in my community, in the world. But when we look inward, it gets really uncomfortable, right? How can I be in harmony with myself? And what does that reciprocity look like? Have you ever sat down and thought about that? Like giving yourself, really, truly giving yourself permission and latitude to go within and ask yourself, what do I really need to heal? To change the things in my life that aren't working for me? What do I need to do that? And allow yourself to visualize that. Engage your imagination, engage that incredible power of creation that's in all of us, and have that guide our actions. Most likely, if you're like me, at least in the past, your actions are guided by your concept of survival. I just got to get through this day, this week, this month, this year, and then it'll be better, right? But what we don't know is, with the ego in the driver's seat, which is a mental construct, not a spiritual one necessarily, right? It's primarily a mental construct that's trying to keep us safe. But it has a very limited understanding of what safe means. Mostly it means no change. Don't change anything and you'll be safe, right? We know rationally that that's not true. If you're in a bad situation, a bad relationship, marriage, you're not safe physically. Maybe there's abuse or physical, mental, drugs, whatever. You're not safe. The status quo is not safe. But changing is really, really scary. So what we're aiming to do with this container is make it safe. You're going to have to still decide that it is, but we're all committing as grown-up people that want to change and heal. We're all committing to making it safe, so that when you step in, you know a couple of things. One, everybody that's stepping into that container with you, you're on the same page in terms of your commitment. We all have our own paths. We're all at the different, we all look at spiritual development differently. I'm careful in my words because I don't want to use terms like level or achievement or any of those things, because those are ego words. We're all on our own path. And whatever path we're on happens in divine time and divine ways. So there's no judgment. So when you step in and you're committed, everybody else, you can look to the left, look to the right, figuratively, everybody around you in the circle is committed too. What a powerful thing. And added to that, if you choose one of the paths, two of the three paths, the path of balance or the path of service, and service contribution is part of your sacred exchange to be in the container. You're going to have an accountability partner for the whole program. You're going to change every 4 weeks as we go around the 4 directions, but you will have someone that you can engage with, and you two together will set the boundaries. You only want to talk during business hours, anytime's fine, whatever, you decide that, right? And the purpose of this is to give you someone that's not me, because I'm just a facilitator and a participant like you are, but to give you someone that you can get creative with about the type of service you're going to do, to commiserate with when you judge yourself to fall short and you're not feeling energized or creative, to boost each other up, that kind of thing. I think that's really important. So you're going to kind of have a micro community within the larger community. And then what I know is going to happen is when you go out and be of service using these principles rather than the martyr model, which we know leads to burnout, using these principles to be of service where there's an energetic exchange, it's very healing for you, let alone the person you're helping. This has been my experience on my own healing journey, and I've heard it mirrored back in so many different ways. Dozens of people have mirrored this back from me, that yes, it was when I really started getting out in the community, or even in my own family in a different way, and started thinking about the right way to exchange energy, the right way to be of service. It became very healing for me. And so I know I have very, very high confidence that that's going to happen for you too. So that is the idea behind this sacred exchange container. It requires sovereignty over sympathy. I'll say that again, sovereignty over sympathy. Sympathy and compassion can be fine to feel, and I encourage you to do so. If you're here listening to this, you probably feel that a lot, right? But when we subvert our own sovereignty, meaning we give away what we need to be a whole person in service of what we think someone else needs because we feel sympathy, that's the problem. That's the martyr trap, right? So when I first started learning these concepts, I thought, taking care of myself, what does that mean? That sounds selfish. Or I had a very narrow view of it, like, oh, does that mean go to the gym? Does that mean eat right? Does that mean, make sure I spend time walking or being in the sun, or, whatever, fill in the blank, whatever that means to you. Because that's what we're taught. And that's what society mirrors back to us, is this really narrow view of, being healthy. What I found is true for me is that is an extremely self-limiting idea. That being healthy is really a mind, body, spirit proposition. Being healthy is a holistic state of being. And once we start carving sections into it, like we do with our rational mind, we're limiting the almost limitless possibility of our own existence. So just taking the health aspect, I know I'm talking about being holistic and not carving things up, but just by illustration, I want to talk about the health aspect, the body aspect, which is actually where we start in the container on Saturday. We're going to start in the south, which is the body's connection to the earth. And the Quechua language, they talk about Sachamama, who is the great snake, the great serpent, and they revere her because think about what a snake does. It doesn't have any choice. It crawls along the earth on its belly, right? So its whole body is connected to the earth all the time. Think about our limited way that we connect to the earth, most of us. don't allow ourselves to be connected to the earth. And the Karo people call the way the snake is, the way the snake exists, as the beauty way, because it's so connected. And what I found is once I started practicing, and we go into a lot of practical ways, this kind of things that you can do that are not complicated to foster this kind of connection to the earth, it starts to really move things in your body and in your field to be that connected to the earth. And you start to, for instance, you start to be able to have an energetic connection between the you, the energetic you, and the physical you. A lot of people walking around today don't realize that they are not their body. They're very connected to their body. We all are. We need our body. But your body isn't you. It's a vehicle that carries this sacred energy that you identify as me through the world. And you learn that your body actually listens to that energetic you 24/7. Every errant thought you have about how you're not good enough, or how you're overweight or underweight, or you don't like the way certain part of your body looks, or whatever, you're internalizing that, and your body is trying to do something about it. It's taking commands. I've heard it said that your body sees the you, the real you, as God. And that's literally the dynamic. So think about that. So if you're making your body an enemy by having all these negative thoughts playing through your consciousness all the time, and your body's trying to fulfill that, what happens? Probably the opposite of what you want to happen. If you're overweight, you might gain more weight. If you're underweight or anorexic or have an eating disorder or something, it's going to get worse, right? And that's where the Western interventions come in with medicine and, psychotherapy. And there's a lot of things in the Western lexicon that are effective interventions to interrupt a sometimes deadly cycle, but they're not necessarily focused on healing or changing the dynamic like the self-healing is. So when you connect with your body in a different way, in a trusting way, in an ally way, and that's exactly the language in Quechua, is treating it as an ally, you can start having a trust relationship and a trust conversation with your body. And the more you do it, the stronger the bond is. It's ready for it. It's waiting for you to have that relationship. And it will impart its wisdom in very clear terms. One of the ways it shows up is once you establish that bond, you can ask your body, should I eat this? And it will tell you very quick, yes, no. There's no thinking involved. You'll get the answer instantly. Another way it shows up is when you test things. Other disciplines call it muscle testing. One of the ways you can test yourself is to pull your fingers apart when you're holding something, or you're near something, or you're thinking about something. If you can't hold your fingers together, that's a very clear no, or negative, or negative validation, right, as opposed to positive, depending on the question, right? If it's strong, your body's affirming, yes, that is okay, and it's always right now. The question isn't sometime in the future. This communication with your body is very, very simple and very, very immediate. That's important because it can change over time, right? So I know I went into some detail in that, but I'm trying to give you an idea of some of the teachings that we'll be going through in the container and some of the opportunities for practice. And we're all going to be helping each other and supporting each other and affirming each other in that, right? So one of the ways that the chaos in the world kind of seeps into our local field and causes us to not have peace is the food we eat. It's a really, really simple thing. As without, so within. So if we're taking in things that are frankly engineered for purposes other than nourishment, right? And you know what I'm talking about. There's certain things that you can buy off the shelf in a box or a bag that are engineered for no other purpose than to get you to buy more, and a lot more. It has nothing to do with feeding your body. If you're taking that in a lot, what's the communication you're giving your body? This is okay. It's okay to give up my sovereignty in this way, to give up my power in this way. Nourishing you is not the priority, meaning you're not the priority. That's hardcore. That's a really negative message when you think about it. It's just as bad as saying, I don't like the way that my hands look or my feet look or something, right? It's just as bad. But most people are not operating on that level. They're operating on the level, I just had a really hard day. Shut up, leave me alone. I want to have my Snickers bar. That's my reward because I get a dopamine hit when I eat it, right? Yeah, that's the way most people are operating. But there's another way. And this isn't a way of, in terms of not being a martyr and giving up your energy. We do that in so many ways and so many levels, right? I just talked about the food way. It's not just the emotional way. We do it on many levels. And I catch myself doing it all the time. The only difference is I'm conscious of it most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. And I know that it's an area of work, and I can give myself grace when I don't do exactly what I want to do or what I think I should do. I just make a pact with myself. I'm going to do it a little better, a little differently next time. But one of the ways that we give up that sovereignty constantly is by giving our attention, and sometimes following the attention with intention, to the chaos around us. And I've talked about this on prior podcasts. The illusionary dynamic that we're being presented with constantly, if we allow ourselves to tune into it, there's so many layers in between any kind of thing that might be a fact that's happening. By the time it reaches us in the form of any kind of media or content, there's so many layers of separation there. You can't in good conscience say that you know anything about what actually happened, unless you're talking directly to a person that it happened to, or on the ground, so to speak, in the situation. So it becomes a seductive trap for us to be a martyr and give up our power. Why? Well, because we receive validation when we have outrage, or we choose a side, or we pick a battle. And I'm not saying, as I've said before, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be an advocate for what's right. You absolutely should. But coming at it from a place of outrage or fear is a totally different energy. And I would argue unsustainable energy, since we're talking about that, than coming to it from, I know who I am, I'm sovereign, and I am choosing consciously who to exchange energy with and what to exchange energy with. And I'm almost making a spiritual calculation, spiritual mathematics, to say, I'm going to show up with this group at this time with these people because I know what's happening isn't right and it needs to be balanced. And I know a lot of the people that are going to show up are also hurting and need help and need that balance. So think about that for a second. Just pause and think about that. What if you could show up as an advocate for peace or change or balance because that's what's inside you. And you're letting it radiate from you and touch everyone around you. Do you see how that's different? Do you see how that's different than outrage, than fighting? Do you see how that can change things? So, I'm getting emotional when I talk about that because I feel so strongly about it. And I feel like there's a need for alignment in the world around that idea. Because the alternative, the opposite of that, is what we're seeing. And those of you who know me know that I'm a student of history, and I've read literally hundreds of books in my lifetime about the history of mankind, religion, philosophy, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I've come away with is that we've been in this cycle for the entire duration of our recorded history, going back 6,000 plus years to the earliest forms of organized writing. We've been in this state of giving up our power and giving up our sovereignty. And it's different groups, and it's men and women, and it's, it's always us or me and other. We've been locked in this cycle to the point where a lot of people think that's just the way humans are. That's just the way it is. I know in my heart that that's not true. It feels wrong. It feels wrong. I know there's another way. I know there's another way to be. And so in my small way, what I'm trying to do to help manifest the way things could be is by having a sacred exchange in this Vital Harmony Council and modeling it. And I know it will be successful because you all are going to make it successful. It's not on me. It's on all of us. And when we have the experiences that I know we're going to have, and we can bring that outside the container into another container, another circle, it's going to be like dropping a pebble in a pond and watching the ripples spread outwards. Peace works that way, just like violence does, right? So, how can we rebel? I've used that word in recent talks as well. How do we rebel against what we see? It's not by more fighting. It's not by more violence. How many years, how many times do we need to see that that's not the way it works? Violence only brings more violence. And passivity and not being engaged doesn't work either. So what's what the Buddhists call, what's the middle path? I believe this is it. It's being actively engaged in spreading peace through action. And the action is your self-healing in community. So that's my open offer and my open door for all of you. We're getting started on Saturday, March 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific time. There's still time to sign up. And like I said, you can either, if you have abundance financially, you can choose the path of patronage and pay for the program, or you can choose balance or service paths. Balance is half and half, service is all service. Either of all of those paths are equal in the container. So we're all treated the same way, we're all doing the same things. And I would ask you to take the model of the hummingbird and make the impossible journey today, not someday. Make it better today for yourself and your family and everyone around you in the world by doing your work so that you can embody the peace that you've always been seeking It's right here inside of you. So with that, I love you, my Ayu. I'm so honored and so excited to do this work with you in this container. And it's just going to be mind-blowing and amazing once we get going. So come with us. If you're not ready to join the class, that's totally fine. Come join the Heartbeat community. It's far away from the social media noise. It's a community just for healing and for setting your intention and doing your work and getting support. So come on over whether you want to join the program or not. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.